I say the same thing twice, I'm awkward when I speak. Ain't got the perfect smile, don't turn heads on my street. Trying to be a superstar like everybody.
They're getting it done. When they get those guys back, that definitely makes them seem like a dangerous team. I think they're going to make the playoffs.
I believe they're as good as any out there. The defense is as good as it comes, and then I really believe they can go far in the conference, even this year.
The altitude to mess with your body, and then on top of that, if you had some marijuana in there, well, you're going to be in real trouble.
The way I look at it is, I don't have any problem with it at all.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Outside the Box. Obviously, I'm not Clay. Clay's in Florida, Chicago, wherever Clay goes on vacation. With me today, your panel, a little bit switched up. It's Michael Brown.
Hello.
Cole Wilkie.
It's good to be on the other side of the camera.
And Jason Doro.
Glad to be here as well.
Well, boys, this time of the year, we all know what time it is. Playoff time. As Jim Moore once said, playoffs? Talk about playoffs. But we're going to talk about playoffs. The NFC, it's tight. You got Seattle, Minnesota, Chicago, Dallas, New York. Michael, start with you. How do you feel this thing's going to shake out?
Well, here's the thing. The Cowboys, they are hit or miss right now. They got to play that game week 17 against Washington. And the Giants, well, they haven't been playing very well lately. They have to win out. If they win out, they automatically get a spot. They control their own destiny. But I just don't like the way they're playing right now. I think they're going to lose this weekend against the Ravens, but we'll get to that later. And I think right now the Vikings, no one can stop Adrian Peterson. The defense has stepped up, played better the last couple games. And I think they are my team that'll get that wild card bid because those NFC East teams beat each other up, and I just don't think the Giants are playing very well.
Gotcha. Cole, what are you thinking?
I mean, I gotta disagree a little bit because the Cowboys coming off a win at Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
Oh, they were home to
Sorry,
Pittsburgh.
home.
Don't give them that much credit.
They're your Bengals, man. Come on.
Home versus, but I mean that's two good teams you're playing. Either one of them is gonna make the playoffs.
Yes, that's true.
I mean they're on a hot streak. Yes, they play Washington. Can RG3 come back healthy or not though? I mean they're saying he can. We all know what a running quarterback, even a little injury, can do. So I mean I see the Giants making it. I do not see the Vikings. You got the Packers and you have the Texans coming up. Yes, Peterson can shoulder most of the load, but at a certain point, I mean, how much can Peterson shoulder?
That's my worry about Romo, though. I mean, he's the king of all chokes, so.
I understand that, but I mean, he's coming off of two good wins against a playoff team for sure against the Bengals, and one of the two is going to make the playoffs.
One of the two is.
You got to give him that. And Peterson, I mean, he had 210 yards, and the Vikings still lost. Going against, two good teams in the Packers and the Texans. I just don't see the Vikings getting in. I've got the Giants.
You've got the Giants. Jason, we know how big of a, just do your thing. What are you thinking?
Okay, well, thanks for that. This is definitely one of the craziest playoff pictures we've ever seen. What we have in the NFC right now: 5 teams at 8-6, 1 at 9-5.
Yep.
It's almost impossible to predict. But I'd be with Cole. I think the Giants are gonna win these last 2 games. They got the Ravens and the Eagles, but I think so will the Redskins. I think RG3 will come back healthy, and they've proven themselves with Cousins as well. So I think they'll both be 10-6. The Vikings got 2 tough games. I don't think they'll come out winning both of those. And then you also got...
You don't have the Texans? You really think the Texans are going to just handily beat them, right? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say handily.
But the Texans, they have been playing like garbage ever since the week before Thanksgiving. They played Jacksonville at home, and they beat them by like...
And they won.
So they
Does
won.
it matter?
Against
won.
Jacksonville? Against Jacksonville.
Come on.
Yeah, they won.
They shouldn't even be an NFL team. That
Houston
is how bad they are.
is 12-2.
At the moment, they got romped by the
They got the second best
Patriots.
running back in the NFL. They got Matt Schaub at quarterback, not Christian Ponder. They have an offensive line that protects. They actually have receivers in Andre Johnson.
Their defense
is well beyond the Vikings.
All right,
Okay,
tell me what J.J. Watt's going to do against the Vikings. He's going
to take Matt Khalil right off the edge.
He can bat down passes. He can bat down passes. What does that do against the Vikings? You can bat down passes. Congrats. They don't pass.
All our passes are right at the line of scrimmage.
Ponder can't complete passes anyways. So.
Michael, you could bat down Christian Ponder's passes.
Yes,
let's be real here.
No.
So I mean,
not-
and they've got a good run D. So they could stop Peterson a little too. He
Look,
might
Yeah,
go
the
47.
Rams thought they had him stopped, and after the second series,
I don't think the Texans are
he
going to
broke loose and it
manhandle
was
the
over.
Vikings, blow
You don't
them
think
out. But they're a better team, I think, and they're going to beat them in Houston. And then the Vikings would still have to deal with Green Bay in the last week, and that's going to be an
But the
important
Green-
game for
Green
them as
Bay-
far as seeding.
No, not really, because
It
Green
very
Bay,
well
Green
could
Bay could
be.
be stuck at the three. They're gonna be stuck at the 3 seed.
That's possible, but you
say
can't say
that
that's going to
the
happen.
Niners win this weekend against Seattle, then it's basically irrelevant.
11-3-1. No, because then if the Niners lost last week and the Packers won, Packers would get a bye at 2 seed.
Well,
Yeah.
here's my point though. Normally the Packers, they played us at home. When the Packers were at home, the Vikings handily beat them. It was just Christian
And
Ponder
they
tore
lost.
us down. Yes. But Christian Ponder
They
plays
handily beat them and
significantly.
they lost.
He plays significantly better at home.
And
Over the course of the season.
now they're going to Houston.
Every team plays statistically better at home.
Obviously,
It's
but
not just-
it's a home game still. You got to think the Vikings are going to be there at 10-6.
They will
They're
be
gonna- they
there.
should be there.
But I mean, it's still a tough division game, and the Packers are still going to bring their A game. I mean, you still have a good linebacking core in the Packers, and Peterson, yes, he went off for a big game against them last time, but you don't know how much hungrier that defense is coming back.
The thing is that even if the Vikings go 10-6, they'll probably end up in a tiebreaker with the Seahawks or the Giants.
Well,
Redskins
I
or
wouldn't say
Dallas.
the Seahawks. I got to think they're in at this point.
Seahawks. Well,
If they win against
They-
the
they
Niners,
play-
they are in.
yeah,
yeah,
it's-
you give them that.
That's
You
the
give them
given.
that.
they'll
They
play.
own tiebreakers over the Vikings. So do the Giants. And the Cowboys and Redskins. The Redskins hold it over the Vikings because they did lose all 3 of those games.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cowboys, they do have it over the Cowboys.
Yeah,
And I
don't
got to
think
think the
Cowboys
Bears
gonna
are
win
just
out, though.
next to statistically out because
Yeah.
they're even.
I mean,
Well,
Vikings
the
have a
Bears have the
tiebreaker over
easiest
them.
schedule left.
They do.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They do.
Arizona,
But
Arizona
I
and
mean-
Detroit, they should definitely end up 10-6.
They should. They really
they
should.
should,
But I just
but
don't
again,
think they're going to
you-
get in.
You have to
you never
think
know.
which Jay Cutler is going to show up, though. Is it going to be the Jay Cutler
They have
of yesteryear,
struggled.
or is it going to be the Jay Cutler recently where he's pulling his best Christian Ponder impression?
I do apologize, folks. I know Clay is not here, but we still are talking about the Bears. I'm sorry.
We had to get it in.
We had to get a little bit in.
Yeah.
Moving away from the NFC, you guys talked about a little bit of the Bengals in the AFC. Cole, we know you're a huge Bengals guy. What do you think their chances are?
If they beat Pittsburgh this week, I've got them in the playoffs. If they lose to Pittsburgh, they're done. They play Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh this week and Baltimore at Baltimore next week. If they beat Pittsburgh,
They host Baltimore.
They host Baltimore.
Since he hosts Baltimore.
I'm sorry about that. And I mean, if they beat Pittsburgh this week, they're playing Baltimore. If they lose to the Giants this week, they're playing Baltimore for the chance to win the division. If they beat Pittsburgh this week, they're in. Period. Just give them a break. You know, they can rest some of their starters. So I mean, it's going to be a tough week for the Bengals. They've got a renewed Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, Andy Dalton, AJ Green, one of the best pass combos. But can they get another receiver going? Was Sanu injured? If you've got Hawkins going too, I mean, that second receiver spot's up for grabs. So it's just a matter of can the Bengals get their offense going against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
And you got to think the Steelers, after the matchup next week with Cincinnati, they host Cleveland. That's a W, no matter what.
They lost
The
them
Bengals-
once this season
They
already.
lost. That's true. They did lose to them once this
Watch
season.
out, Brandon Whedon and
But-
Trent Richardson.
I think the Steelers are just
They
gonna have
did
that
play. They did play the Redskins very tough deep into the second half until they pulled away.
But you got to think, Steelers of past years. They fight till the end. They don't.
It's not the same anymore.
They have
It's
that
not the
playoff
same.
grind.
They have
but
that playoff grind. They know what they have to fight for. And with the Bengals hosting Baltimore, Baltimore wants to play spoiler. Yes, they also want to play spoiler against Pittsburgh, but you got to think Baltimore wants to knock somebody out. And if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Cincinnati.
That is correct.
And
Yeah.
that comes down to the last week of the season. I see it if the Bengals win this week. I mean, it depends on how the Ravens and Giants do and the Bengals and Steelers do. I mean, that's going to determine the last week of the season if it's going to count or if it's just going to be kind of a have-at-it game. Do you rest your starters? Do you not? So, I mean, this is a big week for all 3 of those teams. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're picking the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game in a little bit. That might as well be our AFC playoff picture. That's all there is to it. The Colts are going to be in another wild card spot, and those division leaders seem like they pretty much have it locked up, except for maybe the Ravens. We'll see about them. Like you said, they play Cincinnati coming up.
Speaking of the Colts, how do you guys think the Colts will do? I mean, Andrew Luck, first playoff appearance. Do you think he'll be able to?
They're going to be going on the road. I think they're going to struggle. They'll be out of there.
You think
Unless
so?
Andrew Luck does not play well on the road, so
I mean, they
It's not
could
looking
end
too
up
likely.
playing Baltimore or Cincinnati. So I think that would be an interesting matchup, considering how interesting or how much the Ravens are banged up right now. So I guess that could be interesting, seeing the Colts play them. But if they have to go to New England or what's the other? who's the
Houston.
two seed?
Houston.
Houston.
Yeah, if they had to go one of those places, they're done.
I mean, it's the same as last year with the Bengals and Andy Dalton being a rookie quarterback. They barely made the playoffs. You know, obviously, the Colts aren't going to barely make the playoffs this year. But, I mean, that first playoff game is rough. Everyone's comparing Luck to Peyton Manning's his rookie year. I mean, his numbers are better than Peyton his rookie year. So, I mean, you got to be weary. That first playoff game is rough, no matter what, home or away. That's going to be a tough time for him.
People started comparing Andrew Luck to Peyton Manning. You can't do that in the first year. Yeah, you can compare the rookie years, but you can't compare to the playoff experience that Manning had.
It's like what we saw with Cam Newton last year. Dude
Exactly.
was amazing, and now he's in that sophomore slump. They got so many years left to play. It'll be great to watch them, though, in the future.
Do you think these rookie quarterbacks will have as big of a sophomore slump as the past ones, or do you think that they're talented enough to where they'll be able to get over that? I mean, RG3, you don't know because it'll see how his injury's healing up.
That's exactly like with Cam Newton last year. Everyone's thinking, oh, Cam Newton's going to have a big year. I think the only sophomore quarterback pretty much is Andy Dalton that's not having a slump. So, I mean, there are, 5 rookie quarterbacks this year that could potentially be in that slump next year. A lot of them are athletic, and a lot of them like to run. That's one key injury away from being no longer a running quarterback and just having to drop back and pass. Not many of them are pure drop back passers. So that's going to be different to see.
What about Russell Wilson? Everybody's focused on RG3. Not a lot of attention has been focused on Russell Wilson. Yes, there has been some attention, but there hasn't been a whole lot. I mean, do you think he can lead them, deep into the playoffs, or do you think that they'll hit somebody like a Green Bay or somebody and they'll just get destroyed?
Seattle's not headed to the Super Bowl.
Well, obviously not.
But
it's not the Seahawks led by Matt
I can see
Hasselbeck.
the Seahawks winning a game based on relying on that defense. Russell Wilson has proven to be a true leader, but in Seattle, it's that run game with Marshawn Lynch and that defense that's been winning them games.
Gotcha. Move away from the playoff picture, head into the picks. Start out with that all-important Cincinnati-Pittsburgh. Jason, what are your thoughts?
I got Cincinnati. I think they'll go into Pittsburgh and win. Like I said, they're banged up. They're not the same anymore. Big Ben still has questions about his health. And A.J. Green and Andy Dalton going to the playoffs.
I mean, I am a Bengals fan.
Just say it.
I gotta
Just say it.
Who dey? I mean, the Bengals, you got to go with it. With a renewed Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, that rush is a lot better than it has been in past years where they've struggled. I mean, yeah, you got to give Andy Dalton and AJ Green a lot of credit. Both of them are in sophomore years. Neither one of them is having a slump. I got to go with the Bengals. If they lose this week, they're out of the playoffs. It's as simple as that. So they've got a lot to play for.
You don't think they can beat Baltimore?
If they lose this week, they're out of the playoffs.
If they lose this
that's
week?
what
All right, leave it at that.
That's what
Michael?
I got to say.
Well, I'm picking the Bengals, but not because I think they're a good team. I just think the Steelers are not going to show up to play. Ben Roethlisberger came out this week and said he did not like Todd Haley's play calling. And I just think they might have a little bit better of a game plan, but I just think the Bengals, even though it is on the road, I still give the check to the Bengals.
I don't know. Pittsburgh, number 1 pass defense. Cincinnati, 18 pass offense. I love the spoiler. That's the best part of football, playing against the spoiler. Ben Roethlisberger, way more experience than Andy Dalton. Sorry, Cole, I got to pick the steel curtain in the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's as simple as that. Move on. Cujo's New Orleans Saints. Sadly, they're not in the playoffs.
6-8.
6-8.
Book it.
No shot.
No shot. And America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Michael, we'll start with you. Who are you feeling in this one?
On the bright side, the Saints can still finish 500, but, keyword, but the Cowboys are playing very well. And then I'm going to go back the other way, though. The Saints, they came off just an amazing showing of offense against Tampa Bay last week. And I was baffled of how well they played. And I really think they can take that into Dallas and I think they pick up a W. Drew Brees and their high-powered Saints offense, they're back.
I got to agree with you on that. I mean, the Cowboys are. They're coming off of 2 wins against, obviously, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, as we've said before. But I can't bet against Drew Brees. They're going to go in. They're going to throw the ball around. I don't see the Cowboys being able to stop that at all. I just don't see how you can bet against Drew Brees. That's the key for me right there.
Gotcha. Jason?
I'm with you guys. I think they're going to go into Dallas and win that game. Drew Brees on fire last week, like you guys said. Who'd that say going to beat them Saints?
New Orleans is the worst defense in the league. Let's be honest. But you got to remember.
You're not doing this.
You got to remember.
You're not doing
Cowboys
this.
have the
You
quarterback
gotta
that throws
remember.
the most interceptions.
They have the worst defense in the league. Playing home against, or at the
On the
Cowboys.
road.
At the Cowboys in Jerry Jones' palace.
Where they don't even win that much.
Where they don't even win that much. But it's in Dallas. But the Cowboys have Tony Romo as the quarterback, so I'm going with the Saints because Drew Brees is going to throw for 865 yards and 6 touchdowns.
I believe that.
I'm going with that. I'm going to pull my Cujo and book it with that.
A lot of Cujo references
Lot
on
of
this
Cujo
show.
references.
Even though he's not here.
Even
It's
though
like
he's
he
not
never
here.
left.
We miss him. That's it. Now the most important game for Minnesota fans. Minnesota and Houston. Adrian Peterson versus Arian Foster. Matt Schaub versus you know who.
That's
Yeah.
not a
You
matchup.
know, that's not a matchup.
I mean,
Let's just give that one to Matt
His
Schaub right
name's
now.
unspeakable.
Unspeakable.
Number
Jason.
7.
I think
happened?
I think I told you guys what I think earlier in the show. I think Houston's going to win it. Arian Foster, that their offense is so dynamic compared to Minnesota's. I know Adrian Peterson's a great runner. I think he'll have another great day on the ground, get near that rushing record. But Houston's defense, I think, will pull it out for him along with that offense.
That kind of contradicted itself there. You have a good defense,
They
but Adrian
do.
Peterson's going to run all over him.
But
I didn't say I said he'll have a good day. I did not say they're going to
They're-
run
Hey,
all
if he
over
gets
him.
if he said he gets somewhat close to the rushing record, you got to think.
All he has
he's-
to do is
Well,
get one
over
touchdown.
he has 2 weeks left to get the rushing record. I'm not saying he's going to get
but
it
Houston's
this week.
only allowing 93 rushing yards a game, though.
But I mean, it's Adrian Peterson.
But it's Adrian Peterson, but you
Peterson.
still have
You
to
can't-
fight against Houston's dynamic defense.
He has to get 147 in the last 2 games to break the record.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Average 147.
Average 147.
is the Vikings, all they do is run the ball.
Yeah. Well, that's because they can't throw.
They
so
want to
obviously have
give
to
them the
run.
record. And against the SWAT team in Houston with all the linemen, all they do is bat down passes. Ponder likes to throw the ball and little slant routes, little screens, all that kind of stuff doesn't go deep. I predict 7-8 tip passes by the defensive line. I mean, it's going to be a good game for that Houston defense. But I am going to contradict myself and say Adrian Peterson will get at least 147 yards to get that average.
Okay, I'm sorry, but can we get over this tip passes thing? What's the big deal?
What's
of
the big
having
deal?
J.J.
It's
Watt
the
there?
Vikings. It's the
But
Vikings.
it's not
They're
just
not.
Watt. It's not just Watt. It's the whole defensive line.
Well, yeah, but tipping passes isn't what's going to win them games.
It really
Especially
isn't.
against
It
the
might
Vikings.
It
actually,
might
though.
get you. It might get you off the field on 3rd down, but
Yeah.
past that, I really do not see.
It also could get them 28 points when they return 4 interceptions for touchdowns.
All right. Well,
Because
let's
we
be
all
honest.
know
They are not going to
they're
get
not-
4
Which
pick
has
they're
sixes.
not
never,
gonna get 4
ever
pick
happened
sixes.
It's not
before.
happening.
But do you think that Christian Ponder, with all those tip passes, how many interceptions will he end up with, though?
That's maybe one out of.
You think?
Maybe
You think
maybe one. Christian Ponder does not throw the ball a lot. That's the thing. And I'm going to skip right into my pick here, and I'm going to pick the Vikings because I think Christian Ponder last week has played better than I think. That was one of his better games. They came out on the first drive. Adrian Peterson could not run the ball very well. He got stuffed. He had negative yards, I think, after the first drive.
Yep.
And then Christian Ponder runs it in for a score. He had a couple decent passes. And, of course, I'm kind of glad he didn't throw it in for a touchdown because I was worried he might not get the touchdown. So, used his legs and got in there, starting to use his little dynamic.
I don't know if you noticed, but then when they were showing his stats in the 4th quarter, he had double-digit completions, and he still wasn't to 100 yards. They're not moving the ball downfield.
But
through the
if you
air.
did notice, they were trying to get a little vertical stretch in the defense. They did throw some balls deep. Of course, he didn't
Deep?
complete them, but he had a
They
little
never
more
threw it.
zip on his ball.
They
He
got
had a
it to
little
the
more
first
zip
down
on his
line,
ball.
like 10, 15 yards down the field, but
I mean,
they
that's
didn't
the
take
thing.
any
That's all they
shots.
do. They're just going to drop back. Let us have slants all day.
Give
Let
them the
complete
threat.
little one.
Give them the threat.
I mean,
They
If
did
the
throw the ball a
Vikings-
little deep to Jerome Simpson at times. They got the ball out in space without Percy Harvin, which has been what they've struggled to do since he got hurt. So I like what they're doing with the offense. They show that they can move the ball down the field without Adrian Peterson in the first half of that game. Second half, not so much, but they showed improvement, and that's what I like about it.
If the Vikings are going to win, they're going to have to stop Houston's offense, and they're going to have to first establish the run with Adrian Peterson, and then mix in play action and some downfield passes with Christian Ponder to keep that defense on its heels.
Yep.
And that's what the Vikings.
That's what the Vikings are all about.
Yeah,
that's
they're
what
going
they've always
to
been about.
big plays off the play action.
But they haven't been doing it recently. With Christian Ponder hasn't been doing it recently.
You don't need to worry about those long, deep 30-yard passes or whatever. Those short 7, 8-yard passes every once in a while, those are beautiful. They'll set you up for the run. They'll set you up for a deep pass if you want to do it. You know, you have Christian Ponder quarterback, you probably don't want to do it.
But you still have to take your
But
shots.
you still have to take your shots just to spread out the defense a little bit.
And that's coming on the play action pass. That's when I see it coming
the
best.
deep routes.
They're going to put 7, 8, 9 in the box, and then that's when you have one-on-oneers with the corners on the
And that's how that's what most teams do to stuff the run. They stack the box. But against the Vikings, you stack the box. That's where Adrian Peterson has some of his best runs. And that's why I think it's so difficult to stop him, which is going to be the main thing, obviously. And I just don't see the Texans stopping him.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with Cole. Also going to agree with Jason. Cole, on your point, he's going to get 147 yards. Yeah, it's one of the best run defense. I'm not going to book it. I'm not going to book that.
Drew Brees got 865 in the bag.
Drew Brees got 865 and 6 TDs, but I'm not going to book the Adrian Peterson. Yeah, he's going to get 150, but also you do have to stop Houston's defense or offense. I'm going with the Vikings. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a 3-point game, 1-touchdown game, something 21-14, 21-17, something like that. Not going to be pretty, but it's going to get the job done. Giants-Baltimore. Giants are playing for their lives. Who knows what's going to happen? Michael, what are you thinking about the G-men?
Like I said earlier, I do not like the way the G-men are playing right now. They have been... Normally they say you can just turn the switch on, they go on their little run in the playoffs, but you know what? You got to get to the playoffs to make that playoff run, and if they don't get it done today against the Ravens, obviously they're out. And I just think that's what's going to happen. I think the Ravens are going to beat them. They're going to hand the ball, they're going to give the ball to Ray Rice, I feel like, more than they did last week. You got the ball, once on third down the whole game? Just horrible play calling. I don't know why they canned their offensive coordinator. I think it was a bad idea.
It was
kind of out of the blue. Horrible timing, right before the playoffs. But I still think the Ravens will take care of business.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, with being a Bengals fan, I put my bias aside, and the Ravens have lost a couple of straight games. Jim Caldwell, second game as offensive coordinator, as Michael said, I just don't see him having enough offensive firepower to keep up with the Giants. Giants seem to get it done under Tom Coughlin. They always have these rough stretches, but then they come back and look good. They sneak into the playoffs, and then they make their run.
But they haven't. That's the problem. They haven't been playing well.
I understand
And they are
that.
one loss away from not going to the playoffs and not making.
So are the
run.
Ravens. I mean,
But
if
the
the Ravens lose
the
this
Ravens
week,
never. It's not like the Ravens have Tom Coughlin. They don't turn it on and just go to the Super Bowl every year.
no, they
The
don't.
Ravens also don't have Eli Manning.
Yes, and Flacco is a good quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. Flacco's a good quarterback.
But while the Ravens have not played well on offense, they do play better on defense, and that's what the Giants struggled with last week when they got
The Ravens'
destroyed
defense is
by
banged
Atlanta.
up.
That's what
They are banged
Yeah,
up.
Ray Lewis
and
is
that's-
out.
But they still
Pretty sure
played.
Ed Reed's out too.
Suggs still has a bad
hurt.
shoulder.
Suggs.
I mean, it's a tough, banged up defense. So I mean, I gotta go with the Giants. I just see with Jim Caldwell's second game as offensive coordinator, I don't see them scoring enough points. Giants put the ball in the end zone once, twice. Little salsa dancing by Victor Cruz. Call it a wrap.
Knew you would throw that in there.
This is exactly the type of game that the Giants live on. They have made a living off of winning games late in the season and just sneaking into the playoffs. They went to the Super Bowl as a wild card team last year. This is exactly what Tom Coughlin gets his team ready for. After that blowout last week, they're going to go beat Baltimore. No more hey diddle diddle Ray Rice up the middle. That stuff's over.
Just all kinds of nice little spiels you got today.
Yeah.
Throw in there.
You're poetic today.
Very poetic.
Eli Manning, right on the brink of that elite quarterback status. He's not quite there, but again, playing up against the banged-up Baltimore defense, I can't see him stopping him. Eli Manning is going to lead his Giants into the playoffs.
Oh, whoa.
I'm
Not so fast. They still have to beat the Eagles week
Yeah,
17.
okay.
Well, okay.
Well,
Oh, that's a
Whoa.
tall. That's a tall order.
I don't know.
That
I don't know
is
if they
a
can
tall
pull that
order.
off, but I think I'm going with Giants solely because they'll be able to pick apart that Baltimore defense. You know, I don't know. Final one, West Coast battle, Niners Seahawks. It's a big game. Big game for both seeding and playoff implications.
That's correct.
Go
I
ahead.
got to go with the 49ers in this one. They barely got the job. They barely got the job done against the Patriots last week, but then again, they still won, right? They still won.
Yeah.
So the Seahawks do get a playoff berth if they win, but they are playing at home, and that just does a lot of things. They always play well at home. I love the 49ers. The Seahawks did score, 100 points the last 2 games? But congrats. You scored 100 points on the Cardinals and the Bills. I think that any JV football team can come close to that.
That was the point I was going to make. I mean, Seattle has scored 58 and 50 the past 2 games, but you're right, against what competition? Frank Gore, 49ers, I see him winning it. You got Aldon Smith coming off. He's trying to set the season sack record.
Sack record, yeah.
I mean, that's a huge
Was he
mark for someone to set.
Two-way? Something like
Something
that?
like that. I
One or
think he's at like
two-way?
19.5
Yeah.
or something. I mean, that's a huge record for him to get. You know he's going to be hungry. I don't see Russell Wilson stepping up. I mean, he has done it in the past. You got to give him that. He is a rookie quarterback, but they can crack pretty quickly. So, I mean, I got to go with 49ers.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think the 49ers are still the kings of the West. Seahawks, I know they blew out these last 2 games. That big ego is going to burst this week, and Colin Kaepernick and Frank Gore are just going to keep that offense moving.
I love Colin Kaepernick. It's a great story. Coming in replacing Alex Smith. But I love Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson even more. Seattle's going to be looking for the playoffs. They're going to be looking to go far. I got to go with Seattle. There's no Sidney Rice, Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll leading the helm. It's got to be there. Anything else?
Well, I think
Your little-
I'll add one more thing. I mean, I
Right.
guess it's a good thing that it's legal for Pete Carroll to pay his players now. So I think that's why he's a good NFL quarterback, a good NFL coach.
Because he can pay his players.
He can pay his players. And
Legally.
it's
Legally.
legal.
He can legally
You
play
gotta
his
add
play.
that
All
in.
right,
I mean,
yeah.
yes, Reggie Bush and McKnight,
Right.
but I mean, you gotta add that legally in there.
Legally.
One last thing. We'll go quickly with this. The MLB Hall of Fame ballot is out. Steroid era players fill the thing. Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, and then you got clean guys like Mike Piazza, Kurt Schilling. What do you guys think? Would you vote for steroid era players?
No. I don't like it. I just think if it's tainted, it should not be in the Hall of Fame. And I just think the Hall of Fame is the most pure thing left of baseball. And that's why I think it's great that people like Mike Piazza, Kurt Schilling, you can put his bloody sock in the Hall of Fame with him. So
You might wear it at the ceremony.
He might.
I gotta agree. I mean, Barry Bonds in Pittsburgh had a good career. You don't know where he was going. All of a sudden, he gets to San Francisco, and he's Adrian Peterson size.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes from a twig like me to a puff guy pretty quick.
Like me.
No, nobody does that naturally. Nobody does that naturally.
I mean, you can't really have that. Sosa with the cork bat and all the stuff he's had throughout his career. He's technically never been found for using steroids.
But we all
Well,
know
okay,
too.
let's be honest.
I mean,
He's
looks,
bigger
than
walks like
everybody
a
knows.
duck, talks like a duck.
Yeah.
It's a duck. Clemens, same thing. Great stats, 7-time Cy Young Award winner, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, you can't do it. You
You
got to
gotta
get
remember.
Piazza in there.
His biggest accomplishment, playing for the Skeeters. That's the best.
All right,
mean-
that's exactly it, though. I mean, he played for the Skeeters.
Plays.
When he was 50 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he might be using steroids there because he might not
Yeah.
have to, but you can't count those stats for the Hall of Fame. I say put Craig Biggio in. He's on this list. I'm looking at it. One of the best all-time Astros there is.
3,000.
I
Okay.
mean, playing on a
One of
huge
the
part.
best all-time Astros.
Yeah,
and
that's
much
not
of
a
an
great.
accomplishment
That's
recently.
not a
mean-
big accomplishment.
I mean, come on. You've got to look
And
at.
don't even put him in the context of Nolan Ryan and
No, I wasn't even. But I mean, I go with Craig Biggio. I gotta go a little under the radar. That's my guy.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'll give you. He got 3,000 hits. I think he's a contender. I wouldn't vote for him right now for sure. But as far as steroids era thing, the most recent argument you're hearing is all the guys in this era played with steroids, played with performance enhancers. So we should still vote the best players in. I totally disagree. I mean, you can't assume that all these guys were using performance enhancers to play. There were plenty of clean guys playing. Mike Piazza, one of the best examples. He should definitely get in this year. Definitely best catcher of his era, probably in the 90s. 300 plus batting average, over 400 home runs, and like we say, did it clean. But Bonds, Clemens, they cheated. Shouldn't be in.
I was listening to K-Fan the other day, sitting there driving here to school, and they were talking about how all these steroid era players, the record books and everything, they're overshadowing those guys who did it clean. Even if they're not proven, they're still sending those guys down in the shadows who earned what they did and earned their place in the record books. I just don't think it's right that if you cheated, you should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. And there's
it's not right. It's not morally right.
There's one precedent that perhaps you could compare it to. We talk about Pete Rose, how he cheated the game by betting on baseball. Now, at the same time, during that era, that was a thing amongst all the players, or a lot, not all, but like we said, a lot, or many of them, a lot like steroids. He's the only one that got caught and got banned from the Hall of Fame. I think these guys, for getting caught, they should be banned as well.
Gotcha. Well, with that, we're going to end our show. Thanks for staying tuned. We won't have one over Christmas break, holiday break, whatever you want to call it. After break, we'll be right back. You guys, thanks for making it great. And we'll see you guys all next year, actually, if we survive.
L-O-L-O-L-O-L-O, white America, assassinate my character. Money matrimony, yeah, they tryna break the marriage up. Who gon' act phony or who gon' try to embarrass you? I'ma need a day off, I think I call Ferris up.
Bueller had a Mueller, but I switched it for a Miele, cause I'm richer. And prior to this shit was moving freebase.
Had a conference with the DJs, Puerto Rico 3 days.
Polly with the PDs, now